The journey to the Porsche World Championship Series continues. And we have the second of our 3 trips over to Japan. Last week it was, of course, the famous Kasuba circuit, but this time it is Twin Ring Motegi. It's a track that's primarily been known for being a part of the NTT IndyCar series. Of course, in 2008, it was the race that Danica Patrick won to become the first ever woman to win a race in a top-level motorsport open-wheel series. But today, it's all about the Porsche Pro Qualifying Series. So hello and welcome to Motegi. Welcome to Racesport TV and the iRacing Esports Network on what is a huge day of racing for us. In terms of the championship heading into today's event, Frederick Rasmussen, 1,129 points to Max Mineke's 1,094. Patrick Holtzman, 3rd place. Ayhan Guven in 4th place. And then Alexander Phoebe rounds out your top 5. There's a lot to play for the overall championship, but it's worth remembering, of course, that 20 drivers are guaranteed entry to the 2019 Porsche World Championship Series. And right now, it's Lon Heinrich with 696 points who is in, Marin Kolak on 688 who is out. We say top 20 guaranteed because of the fact that drivers from the 2018 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, they have an open invitation. If they take that, they're in. If they don't take it, we go down the list. The likes of Kolak, Jaltine, David Corr, David Williams, Ricardo Castrolado, they may still get in, but everyone's going to make sure if they can, they get in to the top 20. Here's the track conditions for today. It's 20 degrees Celsius, 64% race relative humidity, and very slight wind speed today of, well, barely anything. 0 kilometers an hour it is, gusting up to about 3 kilometers an hour. It's a 30-minute race, and it's going to be commentated by Connery Maddock and Jack Stiles. Connery, over to you.
Thank you very, very much for the introduction, Will. We're here at Twin Ring Motegi. To be exact, we'll be on the east layout for this one, which is an interesting spanner to throw into the works. It's not usually the course that you're used to seeing here on the iRacing service. Usually you get to see the GP circuit in its full form, but this time we're only doing around about half of it. You see the provisional qualifying up on your screen for you right now. Freddie Rasmussen, provisional pole position by, well, 1.5 tenths of a second there from January Bootloop, with Ricardo Castrolado there, just a couple of thousandths behind that. And Ricardo Castrolado, he hasn't had the best of luck in terms of the broadcasted splits here in the iRacing Porsche Pro Series. He hasn't had the best luck in any of the other strengths of fields as well, which is why he's so close to getting himself inside the top 20 despite having this incredible pace. So I hope for him that his luck changes.
Yeah, of course, the first round of Detroit, he had the issue. Didn't even make it through 4 corners before he ended up on his lid. And then again, last week out at Tsukuba, had more issues. Hoping for a better run here today at Motegi. And I think, Connery, it's going to be interesting. One of the bits which people aren't used to seeing, and it's something which, as we're riding on board with Joni Heikkinen in the number 8 machine, you might have seen earlier on, the section through the middle to actually join up the 2 sections of the circuit which we're using today at Motegi. That is very tight and twisty. But by the looks of it, especially the second half of it, it's very fast. The 4 and 5, I wouldn't call it a chicane, I'd call it more of a right-left kink. And from listening to the sound of the engines throughout qualifying, drivers are running it nearly flat through there. So expect to see some good racing out of that corner if someone maybe mucks up a line, can't get the run out of the corner onto that long straight down towards turn 6.
That first sector, well, the end of the first sector is really a section where you can just throw the car about through the high-speed section, but a bigger concern is before you get to that point, turn number 1, downhill braking zone, 90-degree corner. It's actually called officially 90-degree corner, and it's such a tight line coming through there as well. It must be an absolute nightmare on the start. We do have qualifying in the books here. No one out there can either set a lap time or improve on their better lap time right now. So we've got our field set. So we'll just talk just for a couple of moments longer here, Jack, because that turn number 1 is just going to cause, well, I hope it doesn't cause issues, but it has the high potential of causing a few problems.
Almost definitely, and it's going to be interesting that first run, the downhill straight. The starting line for the actual race is almost towards the last corner of the circuit, so you've got a long run down into turn number 1. And some of the drivers towards the rear of the grid, the likes of Jake Hewlett, Joni Heiken and Graham Carroll, they're going to have an absolutely fantastic run, be carrying a lot more speed and momentum into that first corner. So they're actually going to have to get on the brakes early. So for them, it could be a bit of a hindrance instead of a help. For the likes of Freddie Rasmussen and Jerry Butterluck, they need to watch out for the drivers behind just to make sure they aren't trying to get a sneaky move down into turn 1, making sure they can get a good cementing on those front few positions, those podium positions that will score you the most points in the early stages of this event.
The downhill braking zone certainly doesn't help. You'll have to brake a little bit earlier than you would usually for a 90-degree corner on a flat surface. But as we get onto the race session here this afternoon, here is your qualifying grid. Fredrik Rasmussen, pole position with a 119.117 there, with Jeremy Bootloop joining him on the front row of the grid. Ricardo Castroledo will line up in P3 with Kamil Franjak getting himself onto that second row. Lauren Heinrich will line up P number 5 with Patrick Holtzman 6th. He hasn't had the best of luck in broadcasted races either, so again, let's hope for his sake that his luck turns. Jared Phil Self 7th after a fantastic performance at Tsukuba last time out. Alexander Voss, though, he only lines up P number 8. Alexander Thiel will get 9th on the grid with Sebastian Dunkel rounding out your top 10. Jack Cedric, P number 11, with Alejandro Sanchez lining up in 12th for this one. Marin Cholak 13th, Moritz Lohner, P number 14, with Olli Pakala starting 15th, Graham Carroll making an appearance, starts 16th, Joni Heikkinen 17th, and Jake Hewlett, your only driver not to set a qualifying time. He'll have to start right on that last place on the grid, P number 18. So as the drivers get themselves to the grid here, and the tensions also do start to rise. Not the only big event we have here on the iRacing service this weekend. The iRacing Daytona 24-hour is underway, and it will feature some of the drivers that you are about to see go racing here in the iRacing Porsche Pro qualifying series. We're about to get going, and going we will start. And that's a fantastic start at the back of the field from Marin Cholak for Altus Esports. He has a huge firewall of cars behind him. We'll go 3 wide for positions further up your field, potentially down and towards turn number 1. And it's a 2x2 situation all the way through here. Oh, Alexander Voss gets a little bit of a love tap from Patrick Holtzman further back through the field as they come through that first sector for the first time. Kamil Franjak has been spun around and is absolute carnage behind with cars on their lid. There was a Williams Esports car going for an absolute trip. Alexander Voss is still rolling down the racing circuit. Oh, we have to sort this one out, Jack, because there's just carnage.
That looked as though the driver of Kamil Franjak lost it coming through turn number 3. That was the start of it, and then everyone else behind. You can see just in the top corner of your screen, that was Alexander Voss giving it a bit of a roll. Running on board with Graham Carroll, you'll see as they head in, the carnage starts to go on the inside. I think there was 2 Williams Esports drivers involved in that one. Graham Carroll did very well to survive that with cars either way around him.
Yep, exactly. It does mean that it splits up your field just a little bit further back as everyone has to slow down, trying to avoid the cars getting scattered across the racetrack in Sector 1. And, well, there were no problems in turn number 1 itself. It all came when turn number 2, 3, and 4 hit, with Kamil Franjak getting spun there by Lauren Heinrich and causing an absolute palaver behind him. But we'll go back to the live racing here. You see the view of Freddie Rasmussen leading the way, as he has done so often here in this series. 1 second is the gap now over Jeremy Bootsloop for VRS Coanda Simsport, and Bootloop does have company in terms of teammates here. He has Ricardo Castroledo behind, and this is very important now for Castroledo in terms of the point situation as we ride on board with one of the Williams Esports drivers. That's Lauren Heinrich, but I'm still going to talk about Castroledo here, Jack, because this is so important for him because of his instance in early stages of the previous rounds. Finally, he's gotten himself a clean start where he's had no problems, and finally, he can get some major points.
And surviving that first lap was the major thing that Riccardo Castroneiro had to do, and he's managed to do that just sitting on the tail of his teammate Jeremy Boutaloop at the moment. Both will try to work together to cling on to Freddie Rasmussen and try and maybe take a few more points away from that one. Keep your eye out for Jared Filsell, currently running in 5th position. He got past Alexander Thebe on the opening of this lap, Connery, as we look as though some good fighting further behind.
Yep, exactly. Oi Pakla trying to defend from Sebastian Dunkel. Here's Dunkel himself will have to go on the defensive now because Graham Carroll is sensing a move around the outside. There's 2x2 behind between Kolak and Lohner as well as they come off of the final corner to come across the line there and complete the second lap of the event, and then look downhill to make your next move, this time in towards turn number 1, and it's going to be down the inside for Carroll, but Dunkel, he tries to cut back in line, but there's no space, and Lohner is the big victim of that instant there. He'll have to pull off the racing circuit. He's got major damage, and we'll get the replay up on screen for you, Jack.
That just looked as though Moritz Lohner forgot where the track went then. He didn't turn right. He went straight on towards the main Grand Prix pit, so unfortunate for him. But it just looks as though, replay up on your screen, you can see, looking at the view of Moritz Lohner, a little bit of a touch behind from Marin Kolak, and then Sebastian Dunkel turned into the apex corner. There he goes off to the left, and a big hit to the front right. That would have definitely damaged the suspension.
Yeah, I think Sebastian Dunkel wasn't expecting to have a car on his inside. He saw a car length gap, but that car length gap became so small in such a small space at time that it has caused that instant there as he tried to cut back in and rejoin the racing line. So two major instants here at the start of the event. We haven't even got 5 minutes over and done with yet, but they're still going to be battling out there on circuit because Lauren Heinrich, we had a little bit of an onboard with him a little bit earlier on. He's trying to track down and lock onto the back of Patrick Holtzman.
And Holtzman was doing a bit of a weaving maneuver down the main straight. Really good trying to break the draft for Heinrich. Heinrich has looked like he's got close over the last couple of laps, but wasn't able to make a move, Connery. And it just looks as though as we're riding on board with the number 12 of Alejandro Sanchez, who's chasing down Alexander Thebe, I believe that is indeed. Just look as though Heinrich doesn't quite have the pace to manage to get past Holtzman at the moment.
Around the outside, he'll have to be into turn number 6. He's just playing with the idea about going around the outside there, but does not commit to it. Under the Bridgestone Bridge, they will go, and then up towards the corners of turn number 8 and turn number 9 here, as we get the car streaming by on your left-hand side. Riding on board then with Alejandro Sanchez. You can just see how much faster through that section that he is, but he seems to not be able to find any sense of getting himself by at this stage. He is being harassed from behind, though, by the Inex driver of Jack Cedric there as they head their way into the final corner. But everything will remain the status quo coming through here. It's important to maximize your run off for this slow speed corner to carry that speed all the way down the pit straight and then maybe look for a move down the hill into turn 1. But Sanchez, he's going to gesture for a move, but he's simply way too far back to be able to, you know, even start to think that that sort of move will be successful down into there. And he does have Cedric still to be concerned about as we ride on board with him.
And if my eyes do not deceive me, Sanchez was a lot later on the brakes into turn number 1 than the driver of Alexander Thebe, maybe showing that Sanchez is running a slightly different setup on the brakes. The brake bias in this car can make all the difference coming into the corner, but riding on with Jack Sedgwick, you can actually see he's got a bit of damage to the front bonnet. He was obviously involved in that first lap incident, Connery, and that is going to be hurting his aero. That little bit of damage could limit his straight line speed. You can actually see it almost looks like he's driven into what could be considered a brick wall with that Porsche 911 Cup car, and it's just going to be hindering him just a little bit. Sanchez getting closer and closer to the driver of Thebe through the S-curve, and he just cannot get there, Connery. He can close up the gap, but it just looks as though Thebe has really got this track covered and cannot make any room for Alejandro to get past.
I think it's simply a case of Thebe is faster where it counts. He's faster where Sanchez could have a look down the inside or outside and have an opportunity, but Thebe, he's getting such a good run off this final corner that Sanchez simply isn't able to challenge when it comes down onto the brakes into turn 1. So, you know, it's all well and good being faster. Here comes the dive, though, from Sanchez. Oh, my word. We didn't see that on the live pictures, but that was a dive bomb and a half from the number 12.
Riding on board with the number 12, and you can see the driver of Alexander Thebe gets on the brakes. Sanchez dives it to the inside, makes the apex. No one will ever know how, but he just cannot get the exit of the corner, Connery. That's where you want it. Thebe managed to get back through, and if you look at the gap now, he's already pulling it out. Another view from the TV cameras, you can see, dives it to the inside to Sanchez, getting through with the number 12. For a brief moment, he got the position, but Alexander Thebe just stuffed down the inside, said thank you, and went on his way.
That was also fantastic heads-up driving there from Alexander Thebe. He could see the dive coming. He left the door open, let Sanchez run through all the way to the exit, because he was always going to push wide in that situation when you're carrying so much speed into the corner. So Thebe decided to wait on that outside and then just get the switchback move off the corner. Easy does it. Very, very good racecraft there from the Pure Racing team driver of Alexander Thebe. We have your top 8 drivers up on your screen for you now. It's going to be Frederick Rasmussen from Bootloop, from Castrolado, from Holtzman in the top 4, then Heinrich, Filsell, Thebe and Sanchez will bring things down to P number 8. 10 seconds separate your top 8 at this stage, and many, many more battles within this to be talking about as well, especially this trio of Thebe, Sanchez and Cedric, who's been sitting back off this battle for a good while. He knows how spicy that this battle can be, as it's already shown to potentially be into turn number 1. So I don't think he really wants to get himself involved in this one. He's just in a race conservation strategy.
No, and I think that is exactly right. For Jack Sedgwick, that's what he needs to do. But this battle has also allowed one more driver to join the fray. That driver is Ollie Parkler, and behind, Graham Carroll wants to get involved as well. So we're going to have a 5-car train before long. If it keeps bunching up like this, you can see even further behind, Marion Kolak and Jake Hewlett. They're also starting to catch up for this battle, Connery. So we're going to get almost half the field into one battle, and that is just showing how close this racing is, especially with a car like this where you don't get much room on the setup. Looking at this battle between Marion Kolak and Jake Hewlett, Hewlett has been closing the gap just a little bit, but it looks as though Marion Kolak, as it stands, has been able to just hold off a little bit more and make sure that he can cement himself in that position.
Yeah, Kolak, the car that is having to defend from the driver that started right at the back of the field. Jake Hewlett representing VRS Coanda Simsports, that purple, white and orange machine, as we'll ride on board with him down towards turn number 1. Not going to be close enough this time, but look at the mid-corner speed that he's able to carry over the Logitech G Altus esports car. He's gained a bunch of time coming through there, and now he can look to challenge at some point later on in the lap as he heads his way through up towards the middle sector, now coming up towards turn number 6, which is a place where he can make a move, but not yet for Jake Hewlett. He's a huge gaggle of cars ahead of him that's starting to battle. Alejandro Sanchez is still looking all over the back of Alexander Thebe. He's going to be close this time, heading his way up in towards the S-curves, and still, it's still defense, and a fantastic defense from Thebe. Sanchez, he must be getting so frustrated at this point, and looking down the inside, he'll start descending. He'll wrestle the door on the inside open and makes contact with Thebe. There's contact behind as well, involving a good couple of cars. Jack Cedric has been caught out in terms of that one. Another replay of another incident up on your screen.
There was more contact. Ollie Packler and Jack Sedgwick just made contact, but you can see on your screen that it just looked as though, whether there was a gap or not, Alejandro Sanchez to go through, I'm not really sure. It was a little bit hit and miss. Another replay coming your way, ladies and gentlemen, riding on board with that number 12 machine. You can see Thebe go to the outside. Sanchez sticks to the middle. It's a bit hit and miss as to whether there were a gap, but they were side by side going into the corner, but those two stacking up allowed the two drivers behind to stack up as well, of Jack Sedgwick and Ollie Parkler. We can ride on board and see it from Parkler's view now, Connery, and you can just see going into the corner. I'm not sure Jack Sedgwick really saw it coming. He did there because you can see the tap of the brakes, and Ollie Parkler keeps on the throttle by the looks of it.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't lift out at all, didn't dab the brakes to try and avoid that incident, which is quite questionable from Pakula. So another huge incident, this one. We're seeing, I would suppose, a few too many of those, but the battles still continue. It's still a trio. It's still a quartet or even the quintet here in this train, because Thebe is still at the head of it. But this time, your stars are Graham Carroll, Pakula, Jake Hewlett, and Marin Cholak.
And that is a lineup which you can't get any better, if you ask me. There's some absolutely brilliant drivers. Ollie Parker, obviously known for a lot of years in sim racing circles. Same with Graham Carroll, Marin Cholak, ex-World Touring Car driver, and Alexander Thebe, an absolute master in GT machinery. Just shows how competitive this series is as we ride on board with the number 11 machine. He's 4 tenths behind the drive of Alexander Thebe as they head down into turn 1. And you can actually see that gap coming down, Connery, it looks like, down to 3 tenths. Heading into turn number 1, maybe showing that Alexander Thebe, that little bit of damage, you can see the damage to his left rear wing, obviously from contact that was potentially picked up and is damaging his aero and really struggling him or making him struggle on the brakes. Carroll getting sideways though out of the corner.
Yeah, very much sideways through there. You don't really have to worry that much about the tire wear in these cars with such a short race, so you can very much decide to go very, very aggressive and take as much out of them as you can, because they don't have to last that long in the grand scheme of things. And Carroll, he'll know that definitely deep within his mind, that he can go aggressive at any moment with Thebe, because Thebe is carrying damage to the rear end of his Porsche, so he's wounded. But with the defense that he's put up to Sanchez already, Carroll's not going to have it easy here.
No, and I think for Graham Carroll, he's really got to put in a lot of work to get himself past Alexander Thebe. We've always seen one driver struggle and have an incident because of it, and don't count out another. Looking at the battle between Lauren Heinrich and Jared Filsell. Filsell very recently actually announcing that he has left Trans-Tasman Racing. Be excited to see what's in the future for him, and he's clearly showing that he is one of the drivers to watch out for in 2019. He's a 3-time winner of the V8 Scott Series, Connery, and he's looking for success in the Porsches, and so far, touch wood, he's had it.
Yeah, we do have to touch wood, because, you know, you never know what can happen. As Jared Filsell, he had a fantastic event last time out at Sukuba, getting himself up onto that podium. It's not as good a result this time, at least so far, with him sitting in P number 6, but it's still a decent haul of points for the Australian drivers. We'll ride on board back in this battle with Graham Carroll. We've got Alexander Thebe parked right on the front of this train still. He's basically like a rolling roadblock at this point here, Jack.
Yeah, I feel like the German police might be interested in hiring him and trying to get him on board for doing their own rolling roadblocks, because he's doing an absolutely perfect job. Graham Carroll, no way of getting past. You can see even Thebe going through that final corner, getting very loose out of there onto the grass. That was very close to disaster. He's moving to the inside of the track, try and break the draft. Carroll's going to stick to the outside, try and go for an outside move into turn number 1. Thebe starting to come across. Carroll doing the dummy down to the inside. Thebe covers it, and he just about covers that apex. Perfect job there by Alexander Thebe.
Oh, you could make the argument about moving in the braking zone there, even for both of those drivers, but still, it is Alexander Thebe ahead, and still, it is Graham Carroll having to chase. He'll have another opportunity here into turn 6. Look at the weaving from Alexander Thebe. Finally, he'll choose the inside line for turn number 6 as Carroll searches for the switchback off the corner as they go under the bridge, on board with the British driver then, as he heads down the inside of 130R. Yes, Suzuka is not the only track that has a corner of 130R. Around the outside for the start of the S-curve, as Carroll is starting to run out of road here, as there's a bit of a dooring going on the exit of the corner, and Thebe has to drop back, and Pakula, now he smells blood in the water. He'll go around the outside at V corner. Turn number 10 will hold it there, will have himself alongside for the inside of turn number, what is going to be 11, the final corner. But the thing is, Carroll's locked up. Pakler's on the inside. He slides through the exit of the corner. Still side by side. Oh, there's a dooring down the straight there between Thebe and Pakler, but Pakler's still fighting. He's not going to give up this one easily. Inside of turn number 1, it's going to be with Thebe fighting, wounded on the outside. They're still side by side under the Dunlop bridge this time, but finally the contact takes Thebe out of the equation, Jack.
Yeah, an unlucky piece of contact there. I could see it coming, if I'm honest, because of how long they spent side by side. Graham Carroll just getting the opportunity that he needed to slip it down the inside and get the position. Ollie Pakler really had to work for that one there, Connery. And now you can see behind, Jake Hewlett wants a piece of this one, and so does Marin Cholak.
That was actually Alexander Thebe getting disqualified from this event. Went over the incident limit there in that contact at turn number 1, and that is always a thing you have to be concerned about here in these sorts of races. With the carnage that has happened, these drivers can rack up instant points pretty quickly. There's a little bit of fighting though going at the sort of the rear end of your top 10 here. Pakler has obviously got himself through on Thebe. Well, all these drivers technically got through on Thebe because of his disqualification, but they can still fight amongst themselves here for position. We've got in this train, we've got Carroll right at the front of him. You can see him just trying to stretch his legs in front of the 3 cars behind him, and he is doing so. Pakler, Hewlett, and Cholak, they will be the cars that will look to battle, but right now it is all calmed down just a little bit. But for how long is the question that we have to ask.
And that's something we're going to have to wait and find out. We're switching views for a little bit, riding on board with Riccardo Castelletto. The Frenchman still in 3rd, having a good run with 11 minutes and 50 seconds left in this event. Still running behind Jeremy Bootslow. The two of them haven't quite had the pace to hold off the driver of Freddie Rasmussen. But for Riccardo Castelletto, he's got a nice advantage of about 2.8 seconds over Patrick Holtzman in 4th. So he's got a little bit of a breathing room behind, which means he can try and put some pressure on Jeremy Bootslow if he so wishes to try and get past. But at the moment, I feel like he's just going to stay there and keep position. Watch out. You can see actually behind there's a battle going on between Phil Sell and Heinrich. Phil Sell looking to the inside into turn number 11. Wasn't able to get a move done, but he might get one on the exit because the driver of Lauren Heinrich has gone very wide. A little bit better off the drive off the corner, though.
Phil Sell will gain a little back, though, coming to the end of the straight, and it's not going to be enough to make a move. You can see how much deeper on the brakes he can go into turn 1. That's the advantage that he's using there to get himself close through this first sector. But this first sector is not really a place where you can overtake. It's the S's. It's a single line all the way through here. You just have to bide your time and look for the runoff of turn 5 instead to make an attempt at turn 6. But Phil Sell, you'll stay in line just for now. He's still got about 10 minutes to work with here to try and get this pass done with absolutely no pressure from behind. So Phil Sell, he can calculate this move instead of having to rely on instinct.
And Phil Sell looking, I'm also looking at the battle between Ollie Pakler and Jake Hewlett, because that one's got exciting once again. Head themselves through 130R and up towards the S-curve. Looks as though Hewlett might go down to the inside, but Pakler's going to slam the door in his face. Defend the position. Watch out for Hewlett into the corner. See if he can make a move, but I have a feeling Pakler's got every single inch of this track covered as it stands. And Ollie Pakler heading down into turn number 11, seeming quite safe.
Here comes Phil Sell then, very close off of the final turn, forces Heinrich to have to go defensive into turn 1. Heinrich will return to the racing line. Phil Sell will have an inkling of a door opening on the inside, but not enough to slot his car through when all is said and done. So Phil Sell will have to fight another day here. Again, it could be a matter of getting a move done into turn 6 instead of turn 1, but he's not going to be close enough to be able to do that just yet, as Hewlett is having a few issues with his car there, but he'll continue on with this battle, or attempted battle, with Ollie Pakler. So Pakler is holding very strong at the front of this trio right now. Just like the before him, it seems impossible that some of these guys can get past him.
And you've got a good view of this battle from the car behind of Marin Cholak in the number 7. He's probably got the best view of all, Connery, and he's just sat there going, oh, I wonder when these two have an incident. Bearing in mind, we've already seen a couple of incidents today with passing. People getting a little bit aggressive, if you ask me. he's all of a sudden got the opportunity of not one, but two free positions if things go wrong, as Jake Hewlett's still having a few issues by the looks of it, but Ollie Parkler, he just can't find a way past. And Ollie Parkler is very much cemented in that position. This is what I like to see, which is what I expect of Ollie. It's just very, very, very constant.
I was going to ask if Phil Sell was about to make the move. He will make the move into turn number 1. Wrestles the inside line away from the Williams Esports driver of Lauren Heinrich. Heinrich will battle off the corner through the first sector. Then he'll have the inside for the first section of the S's, but the advantage switches back to Phil Sell, and Phil Sell gets the position, but a whole bunch of oversteer means that Heinrich is able to fight back and able to get the position back as well. Oh my god, Phil Sell, he had the move done just for a couple of moments, but the car broke away. Too much aggression through the S's, and he's put right back behind.
And that is the moment where Jared Phil Sell may have lost his opportunity. 7 3/4 minutes remaining in this event. An absolutely perfect move executed by the Australian right up to the point where they got to turn number 5, and he just got a lot of oversteer. It's very easy to do if you get a little bit too early on the power, but he's just recollected himself, dropped him back behind Lauren Heinrich, and he will go for another move surely before the end of this race.
Cholak is having a look now over Jake Hewlett. He's thinking, okay, I can't wait for Jake Hewlett to get himself past Ollie Parkler. I have to take my race into my own hands. And Cholak, he's had an attempt already over Jake Hewlett. You can see that as a result of it, Parkler has been able to get himself away slightly in front of this battle. So Cholak has decided that it's go time. And Hewlett, what can he do on the defense now instead of the offense?
And I have a feeling that Jake Hewlett will go defensive. Ollie Parkler is a little bit too far up the road for him to be a worry for an offensive move on the 8th position. So he's just going to hold on to this 9th position, I think, from Marin Cholak. But Cholak is strong. He had a very good run at Detroit. And again, a very good midfield run at Tsukuba last time around. So I feel like Marin Cholak is turning out to be one of those drivers in the midfield where you just have to watch out. He is one to watch. Very quick driver and very, very experienced when it comes to racing.
Yeah, we are riding on board with him as they come up to the middle sector, S's section, S curve. You've got V corner right at the end of it as well, as Cholak works his way up the hill here, trying to chase down that VRS Quanta Sim Sports machine ahead. And of course, the Team Redline car on the front of the train, but not making all that many inroads yet. He's looking to have a little bit of a better final sector than previously. Still not close enough into the final corner to make a move, but off of this corner is perhaps where it all starts to count. Here we go, back on board again with this battle with Marin Cholak. He's still not close enough into turn 1, so time is starting to run out for these guys right now. We're coming up to 5.5 minutes remaining, and another thing to keep in mind is that Cholak does have a little bit of damage there to the front end of his Porsche, it looks like, so that might be affecting him slightly coming through some of these corners, but I don't think it's a huge problem.
Is there a car out on circuit which doesn't have damage other than probably the first 3 or 4 cars? I think that first lap incident caught up almost every single car in the field in one way or another. Cholak getting very loose out of turn number 6 on the power. Actually lost quite a lot of time to Jake Hewlett there. So he's got to make that all back up again as we head into the last 5 minutes.
Phil Sell and Heinrich are very, very close. Heinrich still on the defense here, and Phil Sell, he's got himself past once already, if only for a couple of tenths of a second before Heinrich had nipped himself back through. But this run might just be the run that Phil Sell needs into turn 1. He'll have to stick within that draft. He's actually going to aim more towards the inside, and that is something I don't like the drivers doing, in fact. If you have the benefit of the draft coming down the straight, just stick within that slipstream. Don't just drift out of line. You're not getting the maximum speed down into the first corner. I'm not entirely sure why some drivers just like to drift and only get like half the draft, or in some cases no draft at all, even though it's there to be there for the taking.
If I were the driver in this event, I would want to get as close to the back bumper as possible by using that draft, and at the very last minute, pop out from it and get a move done. That is what we have seen a few drivers do, and it seems to be a technique that worked very well. For Jared Filsell, still not close enough to make a move on Lauren Heinrich, but I think to be able to even make a move, there's sort of half a second between them, 3/10 of a second between them. He really has to close up that gap even more. He has to be right up the tailpipe of the car ahead to even think about a move here at Motegi because of how hard it is to get past in some of these corners.
Very difficult indeed. And then off of the turn number 10, you could set yourself up for a run through towards the final corner, but neither driver really got the fantastic run off of there. Filsell will still bring it close coming through that corner though, but it's going to require an almighty dive bomb down into turn number 1 for him to try and get himself past. So it's not going to happen this lap, and you have to start asking yourself, well, which lap is it going to happen? We're only going to have 3 to go next time these guys head their way across the line. So what is it going to be?
I'm not sure. I think it's now maximum attack mode during the final stages of the event. Let's try and get every inch possible on the racetrack, and I mean, it's the case of do you go for it and risk losing the points from this event and finishing right at the back of the field? That's the other thing you have to take into consideration, because as soon as you lose that opportunity for good points, it could be another week or 2 before you can get back up to the position that you're in, and by that time, you might have had new contenders come into the top 20. So it's all about thinking in the long game. We're only a third of the way into the qualifiers. We've got another 6 weeks remaining before we will know who the 40 drivers are qualified for the Porsche World Championship this year. And I think for some of the drivers, they just need to remember that. I think today that's really going to hit home for some of them.
Filsell is very close now. Is get a view of your race leader, Freddie Rasmussen. It's been probably one of the easiest races that he has ever ran here. Started pole position and just simply never looked back after that huge incident involving P number 2 coming into the first sector. He's just said, all right, I'm going to just goodbye. I'm off in the way. You guys just have your fun at the back of the field. Just don't worry about me. I'm going to go and win this race. It's as simple as. And that is what Freddie Rasmussen tends to do when he gets a very, very good start indeed. So G2 Esports looking to get yet another win in this series. If Freddie Rasmussen can make it to the end here for the final lap and a half that he has. We still have the trio, though, back in the field for P number 8, 9, and 10. We're riding on board with the car on the back of that one. That's Smaran Cholak. He's had a look on here already, but over the past couple of laps, hasn't really been in a position to be able to challenge and get points further up the field. He's just sat in this sort of weird situation where, okay, at some points on the track he's faster than here, but at others he's being completely decimated and he's not able to bring himself to the back bumper to be able to search for a pass. But there's also this no small issue of Heinrich versus Filsell, because these guys have been stuck together like glue for most of this race right now. And Filsell, he is running out of time. 1 lap to go for these guys as they head their way across the line, and Filsell does not get a good run off of the final corner.
No, we're looking back from Lauren Heinrich onto the final lap, and Filsell's really going to have to put on a good move at some point if he wants that 5th position. A top 5 will do really well in his campaign for one of those top 20 spots through turn number 1. Can't get it done, and I think that might be the same. I'm not sure if he's going to be close enough, taking a very different line through 2, 3, 4, and 5 to Lauren Heinrich, and that's just going to make this even more interesting into the final moments.
Filsell has lost a lot of time there coming through the first sector. That basically means his chances are pretty close to 0 at this point, unless he has a fantastic middle sector here. And it looks like, though, Williams Esports are going to hold on with their driver of Lauren Heinrich up in towards the S curves. And Filsell, he is closing in, but it's going to be a case of too little, too late. We're riding on board with your race leader. Easy does it, Freddie Rasmussen. Easy race. It's going to be another win for him in the Porsche Pro Series. Freddie Rasmussen, G2 Esports, take the race win at Twin Ring Motegi. 5.7 seconds ahead of Jeremy Bootloop. Fantastic performance from Rasmussen. Heinrich will hold on to get P number 5, with Filsell having to settle for P number 6. And the trio, well, there's going to be no changes in that one either. That's going to be Pat Gluck coming out ahead of Hewitt, ahead of Cholak. That is how P number 8, 9, and 10 are going to finish as the rest of your runners head across the line there, Jack.
Yeah, all 12 cars that finished this event. Of the 18 that started, we had 6 non-finishes in this one. But what an exciting end to another exciting event in this one. This series is really showing to be one of the most competitive on iRacing at the moment. And it also sets up the World Championship to, I think, be very close racing. And doubling the amount of cars on track is just going to make it closer.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely brilliant stuff indeed. But before we get to the post-race show, here are your official race results. Freddie Rasmussen wins by what was even more of an extended gap at the end, 6.1 seconds over Jeremy Bootloop, with Ricardo Castroledo finally getting himself a good result on the podium. Fantastic stuff for VRS Kind of Sim Sports as well as G2 Esports there on the podium. Patrick Holtzman will finish in P number 4. He's finally had a good result in a broadcasted race here after crashing out of the previous 2. We've got Lauren Heinrich, Jared Filsell bringing things down to P number 6. Graham Carroll will finish 7th with Pakla 8th, Jake Hewitt 9th, and Marin Cholak rounding out your top 10. And then you've got Alejandro Sanchez dropping back after a good couple of attempts earlier at getting past what was Alexander Thebe. Unfortunately, it did not happen for him. Drops back to P number 11. Joni Heikkinen, P12. And then Thebe, disqualified from the event because of going over the incident limit, ends up classified in P13. Jack Cedric, P14. Kamil Franczak, 15. Sebastian Dunkel, Moritz Lohner, and Alexandra Voss will round out your 18 car field. So join us in just a couple of moments' time for the post-race show here on RaceSpot TV and on the iRacing Esports Network. That was the Porsche Pro qualifying series. We'll see you in just a couple of moments.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the post-race coverage from the third round of the Porsche Pro qualifying series from Twin Ring Motegi. But before we go any further, let's not forget that we've got not one but two great races going on right now. We've had one finish, that was us technically, but we still got another going on all weekend long. This is the 24 Hours of Daytona. Let's check in with Jake Sperry and Justin Prince.
Mogren behind the wheel.
Yeah, we haven't discussed him much of the day so far. He's a very talented driver in his own right. Was competitive in the V8 Super Trucks Championship as well for Radicals Online, and can have really a solid pace. Can really, depending on how he has in a day, can on average probably run in the top 5 in this kind of a race. The thing is, can he get by these kind of drivers the more they try and work against each other? And in the case of ASD Elite GT3, the double six, the more he's going to gain the time back up by the time they get towards the pit window.
Yes, and that time gained before the pit window could arguably say that Gregor Hutu, arguably the greatest sim racer that has ever existed in the world. He had one great thing about his driving. He was the best on an in-lap, and he was the best on an out-lap. And that's what you have to do to be really, really good and maximize your potential.
It might be worth saying I was the one that first started talking about the last third of the sin for Gregor Hutu, and in what he is, of course, one of the possible Hall of Fame drivers if iRacing were ever to create a Hall of Fame. Of course, winning 5 iRacing World Championships in Grand Prix racing. First question, Connery, of course. Let's tie this all together a little bit. Gregor Hutu, do you think he's going to run in this series?
I mean, if you're given what is basically a ticket to try to compete for $100,000 or your share of $100,000, then I wouldn't care if you dislike tin top racing and prefer open wheel racing. If you're given the opportunity to compete on that sort of stage, you just definitely have to take it. There's no other option.
Yeah. Of course, the 24 Hours of Daytona is going to be going on all through the night into tomorrow. Join myself and Connery Maddock for breakfast with Will O'Connery, actually at Cassidy Will, live tomorrow on the iRacing Esports Network. And well, Jack, the big thing about the Daytona 24 Hours, of course, is we are running into the night this time.
I cannot wait, because I also think I'm driving in the race. I'm going from this broadcast straight to the race, and I'm going to be jumping in. I'm driving for not my own team, actually, the first event I've got, but I have the stint into the night, I think, and I've done it once and I'm about to do it again later on, and it is one of the best things I have seen in gaming for a long time. iRacing have really pulled it off. We can see it today here as well, actually. If you look enough, you can see the sun shining off of the track. So it's even showing, I mean, it's only 4:15 in sim at the moment. So we were running quite late in the day today, but the day-night transitions have really pulled off. And I really hope they show up well on the broadcast and show everyone who isn't able to drive those stints how great it does look.
Yeah, and Connery, the good thing is it's not going to be like Monday Night Skippies this past Monday. These guys have headlights.
Yeah, exactly. That Monday Night Skippies race was certainly interesting. I think interesting is going to be the word that we're going to go for to try and describe that one. But yeah, these guys will have no problems in terms of finding themselves around the racing circuit. And it's not just the case that they have their headlights. It's basically because the entire track is artificially lit. So even if they didn't, then they'd still have a pretty good time out there. But still, an absolutely fantastic event. We're an hour in at this point, or at least getting towards an hour into the event. I don't think I've seen many big incidents in the top split, so everyone has gotten themselves off and away pretty okay. All of them know that this is the long haul. This is the long game. This is this is where the definition of a long game comes from. And with the first set of stops have already been happening for the prototypes, and then the first set of stops now happening for GTEs. They're starting to settle themselves into a rhythm now, and we can get ourselves going with the endurance broadcast.
Yeah, indeed. So it's also worth noting, of course, that it's going to be the hardest 24-hour race we've ever seen because of that day-night transition. Let's talk about the Porsche Pro qualifying series, though, for just a few moments. And let's talk about the point standings. We didn't see Max Maneke, of course, in this event for the second week in a row. It is, however, worth noting that in terms of the points and the way things are, in terms of the championship, the 20 drivers who are punching their ticket, well, Maneke has won a race this week. And no, he hasn't actually. I'll take that back. He's got 1,094 points as it stands right now. So he's behind Frederick Rasmussen by about 25 points. In fact, it is exactly 25 points as it stands. 35 points. Really should learn to do some more maths once in a while. 35 points is the gap between Frederick Rasmussen and Max Maneke. Patrick Holtzman in third. Ayan Guven in fourth. Alexander Thieb, despite his issues today, still in fifth place in the championship. Darren Narkowski in sixth. Kamil Franczak in seventh. Jared Phil in eighth. Josef Falgren in ninth. And Niels Koch rounding out your top 10. On the bubble, as it stands, is Enzo Benito. But Enzo Benito has not run a race this week. On the outside looking in, that is Glenn Key. And he has got 705 points to Enzo Benito's 714. As it stands. One thing I want to talk about. Let's start with Graham Carroll. He's back. He had an entertaining race, I'd say, by his standards, but not the level he would have wanted. Still started down the field a little bit, gained a lot of Connery in that first lap with all the drama, but then P number 7, that's not what Graham Carroll wants. He wants to be winning these championships.
Yeah, exactly. And when he's joining as late as he is, that is a huge points gap to try and come back from if you're going to get yourself inside the top 20. And yes, there will be some people later on in the season that will decide not to run because they feel that it is impossible for them to hold on to a top 20 spot or get themselves into a top 20 spot. So that'll give somewhat of an opportunity for Graham Carroll to get himself up near that point. But having missed a good couple of races already, it's hard to see him without race wins getting himself in a qualification spot.
Yeah, and I'd say Jack even that. He has to be running on Friday night and Saturday night now. He needs to be running at least 2 races a week to try and give himself the chance of getting decent points. Actually, I'd say probably run 3 races. Run a race which has got the 3,000 or so strength for field. Win that, and you get enough points maybe to just scrape in at the end.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers do pan out where they get the points. Of course, the strength of field races like we've seen today do give the most points away for the drivers, which is the interesting bit that you have to look at. But then there's the question of what really happens when it comes to when do you race in the other sections? Do you just hope for the best and hope it's an all right strength of field and get as many points as possible? Do you just go for it in these SOFs? And it's really a game of who wants to take the most risk when it comes to points. It's quite an interesting game to play, to be fair.
Yeah, indeed so. So that literally, and I'm just having a look through as well. He's 41st in points as it stands at the moment. We've actually got iRacing's Drew Adamson somehow in P274. I don't think he's actually allowed to run in a World Championship Series as an iRacing employee. So that'll be an interesting one. Of course, some people would have got the I Let You Win award because he is a staff member. I haven't actually got that one yet. I'm actually wondering at some point whether or not they might as well just give me a staff badge for the 4 times a year I race Connery. Then everyone's actually going to finally get the I Let You Win award.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't have that award either, so I haven't raced with a staff member on this service, so I haven't had the opportunity to try and get that particular award. But yeah, that's interesting. Anyone that's involved with either with the iRacing, with the broadcast, is not allowed to compete in the in the actual thing itself. So that is a very, very interesting predicament. He's obviously not going to get himself inside the top 20, but still, it's it's still something to think about here.
Yeah. Having a look through to next week, however, Watkins Glen International, we go back to the United States of America. We go to upstate New York, 30-minute race, and we've already said this, Jack. The first lap is going to be really interesting because they're going to be 4 wide, I'd say, potentially coming through turn 1. You then got to funnel it down to somewhat 2 wide as you go up the S's, and then they're going to spread themselves out again. Then they got this little thing called the bus stop chicane.
I seem to remember from commentating on a series called the 60 Plus Racing Adventures at Watkins Glen, we've had 5 wide into the bus stop before, so it can get interesting. Of course, they're using the Pro Mazda, slightly smaller car, so you can get 5 wide. You're more likely going to get 4 wide with these cars, but it's going to be very interesting to see how these drivers do deal with that course, because it's tricky. Watkins Glen is not easy. It is a favourite for drivers. Must admit, it is a very enjoyable track to drive, but it's very challenging, especially the bus stop. The bus stop at Watkins Glen and the bus stop at Daytona are 2 bus stops where you really have to be thinking every single lap, because it could so very easily go wrong.
Yeah, of all the races we've got left to go, Connery, Watkins Glen, Imola, Mount Panorama, Suzuka, the Canadian Tires Motorsports Park, and Sebring, which one do you think is going to be the hardest for these drivers?
Whenever you have Mount Panorama on that sort of list, you have to think that that's probably going to be one of the toughest tracks for pretty much everyone out there. And it's going to be a track where the Australians especially are going to be absolute gods at. We saw in the GT World Championship, the VRS iRacing GT World Championship, where it was the Joshua Rogers show for what was TTL Esports. He was on another level compared to some of the drivers there, and that is because he's using his experience in the likes of the V8 supercars that run there so often in the Bathurst race. And again, in this one, I think it's going to be the same, even though, of course, they're not V8s, but they're still very, very chunky cars indeed. And it's going to be Phil Sell's race is Mount Panorama, with everyone else having so many issues on that mountain.
Yeah, indeed. I would say put a little circle around the Canadian Tires Motorsports Park, because that is one track where if you even touch the grass, you pretty much end up coasting towards the tyre barrier, because the grass is so slippy at that racetrack. That is all we have got time for here this afternoon here on the iRacing Esports Network and RaceSpot TV. As ever, thank you, first of all, of course, to Connery Maddock, Jack Stiles, your commentary team for this afternoon. Istvan Balau, TrackCams22.com, the fantastic TV cameras which we use here on RaceSpot TV. Andres Warner and One Design for our overlay design, development and tweaking to make it Porsche-fied. Yes, Porsche-fied is an actual word. I invented it. Simon Grossman, Appgenering.com. Nick Thisson, as ever, for RaceSpot TV, live timing and scoring. So yeah, we're done here, but there's still 22 hours and 54 minutes worth of racing in the 2019 24 hours of Daytona, which will be exclusively live on the iRacing Esports Network and on RaceSpot TV. So you can check out Jake Sperry and Justin Prince right about now. We've got an all-star cast going through the night and then into the morning when it'll all go to pieces, when we have myself and Connery Maddock having breakfast and talking race cars tomorrow. In the meanwhile, thank you for watching this webcast of the Porsche Pro Qualifying Series. My name is Will Vincent. Goodbye and good night from Motegi.